Some hurts from family are like a clean break. They heal. But others cut to the bone, and they leave a scar that never really fades. My thumb still traces it, an unconscious habit. This raised white line on my wrist, smoother than the rest of my skin. It's the one piece of physical evidence, the one truth they could never talk their way out of. It's the proof I wasn't just making a scene. Sometimes, when the house is quiet, I'll just sit here and run my finger over it, back and forth, and I remember. It's a strange thing, what you believe about yourself when it's all you've ever heard. For the longest time, I genuinely thought I was just fragile, born with some kind of defect, a lower pain tolerance than everyone else. It was the family narrative, the foundation of my identity in that house. I was the complainer, the weak one. And my older brother Mark, he was the golden boy. The picture of robust, effortless health. That contrast, it was the entire story of our childhood. If Mark sneezed, it was a household event. You could feel the air shift. My mother would have chicken soup simmering within the hour. My father, who hated running errands, would be in the car, driving to the 24-hour pharmacy for the name-brand medicine. Not the generic stuff, never for Mark. His temperature was taken like it was some kind of sacred ritual. Our entire lives would just pause for a sniffle. Me? My childhood was a long series of "you're fines," always delivered with a sigh. It was a chorus of "walk it off" and "stop being so dramatic." The memory that scar belongs to. I was 10. I was climbing the old oak tree, trying to prove, probably just to myself, that I wasn't fragile. My hand slipped. I remember the fall not as a drop, but as a sudden violent meeting with the ground. And the sound. Not a loud crack like in the movies. It was a sickening wet snap that seemed to come from inside my own head. The pain was immediate, a white-hot fire that shot from my wrist all the way up my shoulder. I remember cradling it to my chest, my whole body trembling, so nauseous I thought I was going to be sick right on the grass. I looked down and watched as my wrist began to swell, turning this ugly mottled shade of purple and blue. I stumbled inside, tears streaming down my face, holding out my arm as proof. My dad was in his armchair. He glanced at it, over the top of his reading glasses, his expression just pure annoyance. "Walk it off," he said, and his eyes went right back to the paper. "You're just trying to get out of mowing the lawn." He didn't even get up. My mum was in the kitchen. She saw my tears, not my wrist. "Stop crying," she said, her voice sharp. "It's unbecoming." She went to the freezer, not the phone, and handed me a hard, lumpy bag of frozen peas. The plastic was slick and so cold it burned. That was it. That was my medical treatment. For the next 2 weeks, I lived with this constant, low-frequency hum of pain. I learned to write with my left hand at school. I couldn't button my own shirts. At home, they just got angry when I couldn't set the table fast enough. "Stop milking it," my dad would say. No one ever asked if it still hurt. They never took me to a doctor. They never even looked at it again. That winter, Mark got the flu. The house transformed into a hushed infirmary. I was the orderly. My job was to ferry trays of tea and toast to his door, to tiptoe down the hallway. I was the one told repeatedly, "Be quiet so your brother can rest," while my own wrist throbbed with a pain so deep, it felt like it had settled into the bone. That two-tiered system of care. It just got more refined as we got older. In high school, I developed severe asthma. The first real attack felt like drowning in open air. My parents were called. Their reaction wasn't fear, it was inconvenience. I remember my dad's heavy sigh. "Why do you always pick the most inconvenient times to be so dramatic?" he asked the rearview mirror. For months, the copay for my inhaler was a household joke. A year later, Mark twisted his ankle during a soccer game. Not a break, just a sprain. The reaction was a whole different level of panic. He was taken to the top orthopedic surgeon in the state, an MRI, just to be extra sure, a high-tech air cast, physical therapy 3 times a week. I'd sit in the kitchen, listening to my parents on the phone, their voices hushed and serious, recounting the traumatic ordeal. I just sat there, my cheap plastic inhaler feeling heavy and stupid in my pocket. The real shift, the moment my own reality finally cracked, didn't happen until college. It was quiet, no drama. I was at the student health center. The doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Evans, noticed me flexing my wrist. "Old injury?" she asked. I told her the story of the oak tree, telling it like a funny anecdote, the way I'd been taught to. I expected her to chuckle. She didn't. She put down her pen and gently took my wrist. Her thumb pressed lightly on the misshapen bone. "This wasn't a sprain," she said, her voice soft but firm. "This was a significant fracture. A Colles fracture. See how the bone is set here? It healed poorly. It's misaligned. This must have been agony. This must have been agony." Her words just hung there in the air. It wasn't an accusation. It was a medical fact. But it hit me like a physical blow. And just like that, my whole world tilted. That story I'd told myself for a decade, that I was weak, that my pain was just an exaggeration, it all just dissolved. It wasn't that I was fragile. It was that my pain, my real pain, had been intentionally ignored. The phone call came last spring. It was my dad. His voice was strained, panicked. "It's your mother," he said. "She fell, broke her hip. The recovery is going to be long, 6 weeks at least. She can't be alone." I felt that old, familiar knot tighten in my stomach. "What about Mark?" I asked. A pointless question. "You know Mark," he said, and the dismissive pride was back in his voice. "His big project at the firm is launching. He can't possibly take the time off. We need you to come home. Your job is more flexible." He wasn't asking. He was telling me. My role in the family had been decided long ago. More flexible was just the family code for less important. My life was the one that could be paused. He'd throw money at the problem. I was expected to throw my life at it. "Drive Evans," voice echoed in my head. "This must have been agony." "I don't think I can," I said, my voice barely a whisper. My father's patience snapped. "What do you mean you can't? It's your mother. Stop being so selfish. It's not like that time you fell out of the tree and made such a ridiculous fuss over a little sprain. You survived that. You'll survive this." And that was it. The snap. Not a bone this time. Something inside me. He was using the lie, their lie, as leverage to demand my service. In that moment, I understood he would never see me, just the inconvenient child he'd decided I was. When I finally spoke, the whisper was gone. My voice was calm. And cold. "It wasn't a sprain, Dad," I said. "It was a fracture. A doctor confirmed it years ago. A painful fracture that you and Mum told me I was imagining." Dead silence on the other end. "I am not coming home," I continued, each word feeling like a stone. "You and Mum taught me a lesson my entire life. Some people's pain is real, and some people's pain is an inconvenient drama. I finally learned that lesson. Her recovery to me is an inconvenient drama." I told him to have Mark use his important money to hire a nurse. I told him my capacity for absorbing their neglect had run out. I told him not to call me again. Then I hung up. A week later, a FedEx package arrived. From Mark. Inside was a cashier's check and a short typed note. "For your troubles. Dad told me what you said. Sometimes it's just easier this way." He wasn't apologizing. He was paying me off. A severance package for a son. He was settling the account. And in a twisted way I appreciated it. He confirmed what I'd finally understood. It was never a family, not for me. It was a business. I cashed the check. I used the money to finally see a specialist about my wrist. And now, every time I feel that dull ache before it rains, it's not a reminder of the pain. It's a reminder of my freedom. The silence in my life isn't empty. It's peaceful. It's the sound of my own healing, finally being taken seriously. Because I was the one who decided it was real. If you've ever felt trapped by an unspoken role in your family, leave a comment below. What was the role you were given?